The sun had just begun to rise over the hills of Baku, painting the horizon in gold and amber. The wind carried the scent of the Caspian Sea, warm and briny, and the city slowly awakened to another day of trade, prayers, and whispers of love. Ali Khan Shirvanshir rode his horse through the old streets of the city, his dark eyes reflecting pride and youth. He was only 19, the son of a noble Muslim family, born into wealth and tradition. But beneath the layer of dignity that his family's name carried, Ali's heart was restless. He dreamed of something beyond the politics and etiquette of the Khan household, something wild, something free. He found that freedom unexpectedly in her eyes. Her name was Nino Kipiani, a Georgian Christian girl whose laughter could soften even the sternest soul. They met one evening at a gathering hosted by mutual friends. She wore a simple white dress, her hair pinned with pearls that glowed softly under the lantern light. Ali remembered that moment vividly. The music stopped, the conversations blurred, and only her voice remained, light as silk, when she said, "You're staring." He smiled nervously. "Maybe I'm learning." "Learning what?" she teased. "To breathe," he answered, before realizing how foolish that must have sounded. But she only laughed, her eyes sparkling. From that evening, their worlds began to intertwine. Two faiths, two families, two nations, and two hearts caught between the East and the West. They met secretly in the gardens by the Maiden Tower, where the sea whispered their names. Nino would talk about Europe, ballet, and freedom. Ali would tell her of poetry, desert stars, and the call to prayer echoing at dawn. Sometimes they argued, about God, about culture, about who should bow to whose world. But love, as it always does, silenced every argument in the end. "I don't care if your world and mine are different," Nino said once, her hands trembling in his. "When I look at you, Ali, I see no border." Ali kissed her forehead gently. "Then let's cross every border together." But love between them wasn't meant to be simple. Rumors began to spread. Their families grew suspicious. The elders warned Ali, "A Muslim boy cannot marry a Christian girl. You'll bring shame to your name." And Nino's relatives whispered the same fears. "He will make you hide behind a veil. You will lose yourself." Yet they kept meeting, each moment stolen from time, each smile a quiet rebellion. One night, as the city slept, Ali took Nino to the cliffs overlooking the Caspian. "Someday," he whispered, "they'll write songs about us. About the boy who loved across faith and fire." Nino smiled sadly. "Songs don't always end happily, Ali." The wind howled between them, carrying the faint hum of the city below. She looked at him, eyes full of both fear and love. "Promise me, whatever happens, you won't let the world change your heart." Ali took her hands and said, "Only you could ever do that." In that moment, their love became a silent vow, a flame that burned quietly against the storm that was yet to come. Because in the distance, far beyond the calm shores of the Caspian, war was rising. Empires were shifting, and soon the very walls that held their world together would begin to crumble. And when they did, Ali and Nino would have to decide whether love could survive when nations could not. The year was 1914. The world trembled on the edge of war, and even the warm winds of Baku carried whispers of change. Flags began to rise and fall like tides, and with every rumor, the distance between Ali and Nino grew a little wider. Ali would spend his evenings at the mosque courtyard, staring at the horizon where the sun sank behind the minarets. He prayed for peace, not just for his homeland, but for the fragile love that had become his secret life. Nino, on the other hand, wrote letters she never sent. Letters about dreams, about fear, about him. Her parents had forbidden her from seeing Ali again. "He is not one of us," her father said sternly. "Love cannot erase what God has divided." But love to Nino was a religion of its own. One evening, Ali couldn't bear it any longer. He rode his horse through the narrow streets under the cover of night until he reached her family's garden. Nino stood there waiting, as though her heart had known he would come. "Ali," she whispered, running into his arms, "if anyone sees us—" "Then let them," he interrupted, his voice trembling. "Let them see that love doesn't hide in shadows." For a long moment, the world stood still. The air smelled of rain and jasmine. They spoke of escape, of running away to the countryside, to live where no one cared about names or creeds. But both knew it wasn't that simple. Ali's honor bound him to his land. Nino's family bound her to her faith. And yet, every time they were together, those boundaries melted away. "I'll speak to your father," Ali said suddenly. "I'll ask for your hand. Not as a boy in love, but as a man ready to build a life." Nino's eyes widened in fear. "He'll never say yes. Then I'll make him understand. I'll show him what you mean to me." But fate is a cruel listener. The very next day, Nino's cousin Malik arrived from Tiflis. He had long admired her, and more dangerously despised Ali. When he learned of their secret meetings, jealousy twisted his heart. He confronted Nino in the garden, his voice sharp and bitter. "You bring shame to our family," Malik hissed. "A Georgian woman with a Muslim boy? You think this will end in happiness?" Nino stood firm, her chin high. "I love him, Malik. That's all that matters." His eyes darkened. "Then you are lost." The news spread quickly, reaching Ali's father before he could make his proposal. "Ali," his father said gravely, "you're playing with fire. Love her if you must, but do not destroy your name." Ali clenched his fists. "What is a name worth if I lose her?" For the first time in his life, Ali defied everything he had been taught: tradition, family, duty. He went to Nino's house anyway, stood before her father, and spoke from the depth of his soul. "I love your daughter," he said. "I will honor her, protect her, and never ask her to be anyone but herself." But the older man shook his head. "Love is not enough. You are a Muslim. She is not. Our worlds will never meet." Ali turned to Nino, eyes full of silent ache. "Then I'll wait," he whispered, "for as long as it takes." And so he did. Through the rising chaos of war, through the long nights filled with loneliness, he waited. He fought battles within his own heart, torn between loyalty to his people and devotion to her. What neither of them knew was that love's greatest trial was yet to come, not from the world outside, but from the betrayal of someone they both trusted. The war had reached their doorstep. Cannon fire thundered across borders, and young men marched to battles they didn't understand. The streets of Baku, once full of laughter and music, now echoed with fear and foreign boots. But amid the chaos, Ali's heart clung to one thing: Nino. Months passed since her father's rejection, yet Ali never stopped writing. His letters were full of longing and quiet defiance, words he knew might never reach her hands. Sometimes, he'd ride near her family's estate at dusk, just to glimpse the light in her window. It was enough to remind him she still existed in the same world. Then one night, fate gave him a cruel gift. Malik, Nino's cousin, approached Ali under the pretense of peace. They met in a quiet tavern by the sea where the lamps flickered in the salt, heavy air. Malik smiled, his tone unusually soft. "Ali, my cousin still speaks your name," he said. "Perhaps there is still hope." Ali leaned forward, cautious but desperate. "Hope? She is miserable," Malik continued. "Her father's pride is stubborn, but time changes hearts. If you truly love her, take her away. Tonight. I'll help." Ali's heart surged. Could this be true? Could fate be offering one last chance? That night, guided by Malik's words, Ali rode through the sleeping city. The moon was high, silver and full, painting the rooftops in pale light. When he reached the Kipiani estate, he saw Nino standing at her balcony, trembling, uncertain, beautiful as ever. "Ali!" she gasped as he climbed to her. "You shouldn't be here." "I couldn't stay away," he whispered. "Malik told me." "Malik?" Her eyes widened in alarm. "Ali, what did he tell you? That you wanted to leave, that we could run?" For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. Then Nino's face turned pale. "Ali," he lied. Before Ali could speak, a shadow moved behind them. Malik stepped out from the darkness, a dagger glinting in his hand. His voice dripped with venom. "You think you can steal my cousin? Shame my family? You've already done enough." Ali's instincts flared. He drew his own blade. "You lied to both of us," Malik sneered. "You should have stayed in your world, Shirvanshir. Love between us was never meant to be." The fight was swift and furious, the clash of steel echoing through the quiet garden. Nino screamed, begging them to stop. But rage had blinded Malik, and love had driven Ali beyond reason. When the blade found its mark, it was over in a single heartbeat. Malik fell to the ground, blood blooming beneath him like a red flower. Ali froze, staring at his trembling hands. Nino covered her mouth, horrified. "Ali, what have you done?" He looked at her, voice breaking. "I didn't mean he wanted to kill me." The garden filled with shouts. Servants ran. Lights flickered on. Ali knew he couldn't stay. "They'll call it murder," he said. "I have to go." Tears streamed down Nino's face. "Don't leave me!" "I'll come back," he swore, his voice fierce with pain. "I'll find you, even if the whole world stands between us." Then he disappeared into the night, a fugitive of both love and fate. Nino collapsed by Malik's side, her world collapsing with him. Her father's grief turned to rage, her family's name to ruin. To protect her, they sent her away to Tiflis, far from Baku, far from Ali. And as war swallowed the land, Ali became a ghost, hunted, forgotten, and broken. But love, even wounded, still remembers the way home. And somewhere, across the lines of battle and faith, Nino would still whisper his name. The wind over the Caucasus mountains howled like an old lament, carrying memories of love and loss through the valleys. Ali rode for days without rest, each sunrise a reminder that he was now both a lover and a fugitive. He crossed villages torn by war, where flags changed faster than the seasons. The empire had fallen, revolutions rose in its ashes. And somewhere in all that chaos, he had lost everything: his honor, his home, and the girl whose voice still echoed in every dream. For months, he hid among the mountain tribes, living off the land, writing letters he could never send. His words were full of regret. "If I could turn back time," one letter began, "I would have taken your hand and run before the world learned our names." But time has no mercy for lovers. Meanwhile, in Tiflis, Nino lived like a shadow. Her father forbade her from speaking Ali's name, yet she whispered it in her prayers every night. The city had changed. Soldiers filled the streets, and fear ruled the people. But she found small ways to feel close to him, rereading his letters, touching the scarf he once gave her, and standing by the river where they had once dreamed of escape. She didn't know if he was alive. Rumors said Ali Shirvanshir had been killed near the border. Others said he had joined the resistance. But deep down, her heart refused to believe he was gone. True love, she told herself, doesn't end with silence. Then, one cold evening, a letter arrived, smuggled, unsigned, but unmistakably his. "My beloved Nino, I cannot return yet. Malik's blood still follows me. But I live, and every breath I take is for you. When the war ends, if God wills it, I will find you. Until then, wait for me beneath the mountain stars." Her tears fell on the paper, blurring his words, but her heart burned brighter. Against her family's wishes, she began to plan her escape. Love had already cost them too much to surrender now. And one night, under the veil of storm clouds, she fled Tiflis. For weeks she traveled alone, through mud, hunger, and fear. But fate, it seemed, had grown tired of keeping them apart. In the mountain village of Lahij, where Ali had been hiding, she finally found him. When their eyes met again, the world seemed to pause. The years, the pain, the distance, all collapsing into one breath. "Nino," he whispered. Barely believing she was real, she smiled through tears. "You said you'd find me, but I found you first." He laughed softly, pulling her into his arms. "You always were braver than I." They built a small life there, quiet, fragile, but full of peace. Days passed tending goats and mending roofs. Nights were filled with whispered dreams. Sometimes they'd sit by the fire, her head resting on his chest, and he'd trace her hand with his fingers. "If the world forgets us," he'd say, "I don't mind, as long as you remember me." But peace, like love, is never safe for long. News soon reached them. Azerbaijan had declared independence and Baku needed its sons. The city was calling Ali home, not as a fugitive but as a patriot. Nino felt her heart tighten. "If you go back, they'll find you. They'll remember what happened." Ali looked out toward the horizon. "Maybe, but my country is bleeding, Nino. I can't hide while others fight for her. Tears welled in her eyes, and what about us? He cupped her face gently. You are my home. No war can change that. That night, as snow began to fall outside their small window, they held each other as if time could freeze, knowing the morning might take him away again. And when dawn came, Ali kissed her one last time before riding into the mist, his figure fading with the rising light. The wind of destiny never truly rests. When Ali rode away that morning, Nino stood at the doorway of their small cottage, her heart caught between pride and fear. The snow had stopped, leaving the world wrapped in silence, as though even the mountains were holding their breath. She watched him disappear into the mist until all that was left was the echo of hooves, fading, gone. In the months that followed, she waited. Every day she lit a candle at sunset and whispered a prayer for his safety. The war had reached Baku. The newly born Republic of Azerbaijan struggled to stand against the chaos of revolution and empire. And somewhere in that storm, Ali fought, not just for his country, but for the hope of returning to her. He wrote whenever he could. The letters came rarely, carried by travelers and soldiers. Each one was a heartbeat made of ink. My dearest Nino, the city is burning, but I still dream of our mountains. When I close my eyes, I see you standing in white beneath the apricot tree. Hold on to that dream for me. It is the only piece I have left. Honey! Nino read those words until they wore thin. She wanted to run to him, to defy war and fate again, but the roads were too dangerous. So she waited as women have always waited, with faith stronger than fear. Then, one night, a knock came at her door. A young soldier stood there, his face gray with dust and sorrow. Are you Nino Shervanshire? He asked softly. When she nodded, he handed her a sealed letter and bowed his head. He told me to give you this if he didn't return. Her hands trembled as she opened it. My beloved, if this letter has reached you, then I have gone where no war can touch us. Do not grieve for me. The earth I die for is the same earth where we first met, near the sea that smelled of jasmine and salt. Promise me one thing, Nino. Live. Love the world the way we dreamed of loving it, without fear, without borders. Raise our child, if God has blessed us with one, to believe in a future where love is not divided by faith or land. And when you look at the stars, know that I am there, still loving you, beyond time, beyond life. Ali? The words blurred as her tears fell. She pressed the letter to her heart and let out a sound that was neither cry nor breath. Something sacred, something breaking. Ali had died defending Baku's last line of freedom. His body was buried near the hill overlooking the Caspian Sea, where he once promised her a world without borders. Days later, Nino made the journey herself. The city was in ruins, the scent of smoke thick in the air. When she reached the hill, she found his grave, simple, unmarked, but alive with wildflowers. She knelt beside it, her fingers tracing the stones. You kept your promise, she whispered. Now I must keep mine. From that day on, Nino lived quietly, not in grief, but in remembrance. She raised their daughter in the same spirit Ali had lived, brave, kind, and unafraid to love across walls. Every evening she would tell her stories of a man who once crossed faith and fire for love. And when the child asked, Mama, where is he now? Nino smiled softly, looking toward the horizon. He's in every sunrise, she said. He's the wind that kisses your hair. He's the dream that never dies. Years passed, empires changed, cities rebuilt, but the story of Ali and Nino endured. People whispered it in tea houses, wrote poems about it, sang songs under the same stars that once watched over their love. Because some loves do not end. They simply become eternal.